Hello humans, Batsy here with another create video. Today we going to make the first steps in the automating area. I have a rough idea of what I want to do with the area, at least a list of a few things I want to automate. And a pretty clever way to make some bulk crafting, but before any of that happens, I want to make a toolbox loading system. I don't want to have 100 chests around with all the products, having to walk endlessly around the area. So for that, I have in mind a nice little unloading system to fill up all the boxes we hook onto it. I will get to work on that and bring you all back once I have something going on because I still need to figure out some details. But I'm really excited to finally get started here, so let's waste no time and jump right into it. Alright humans, I have made some progress with the unloader. It doesn't look the prettiest, and I still need to fine-tune a few things here and there, but overall it's working nicely. The only thing that doesn't seem to be working is the content observers, funny enough, but I'm not entirely sure why. Even showed my problem on the official Create Discord server, and no one seems to know what's wrong. But anyway, let me show you what I've done, and maybe the humans know what's up. This is the front side. I have a very cool idea on how to decorate it, but for now, it's only the functional stuff. To the left side, we have the item and shulker unloader. This is basically to dump all the items we want back into the vault. Might not use it a whole lot, but it's always good to have. It basically moves the items from that chest into the vault. Then we also have this system that deploys a shulker into the funnel, with some items being moved into the vault, and the rest of the stuff that doesn't belong there simply comes back up to get manually picked by us. It's a pretty simple setup really, just to have a way to throw items back into the vault. At the front, we also have those displays up there. That's, of course, to show the items inside the vault, otherwise, we would have no idea of what we got. This is where all this redstone comes into play, which is the part 1 mentioned with the content observers that won't work. But let me explain it properly. This display is showing all the items inside the vault. At least the 8 items with the biggest amounts anyway. If we wanted to display them all, we would need a massive display that goes all the way to the sun pretty much. So instead, I made 3 displays. Now, the issue is, making it wider doesn't add extra columns to it, so that's why I made 3 separate displays. And you might be thinking, but that doesn't fix the issue either, they will all show the same list. That's where my redstone comes into play. The idea is, I have 11 different boxes, so I made 11 different filters, with the exact same 8 items I have in the boxes. The redstone cycles through the filters on 3 different content observers, thus making those 3 displays like pages. With the press of a button, the pages will cycle, displaying different items each time, like accessing a lectern with the inventory list on it, but it looks bigger and cooler. The problem is that for some reason, filters don't seem to work, they display nothing at all. As you can see here, there are 3 filters, 2 are normal filters with the allowed list of all the items from 2 different boxes, then this one is the opposite, I added them as deny list. The 2 normal ones show nothing, and the deny list for some reason removed a few items from the panel, some of the items not even from the filter itself. So, no idea what's going on here, the cycling system works perfectly, but the content observer simply won't work with filters, and according to other people, they should work just fine. If any of you humans have any idea of what's going on here, just let me know in the comments below, otherwise I might wait for the 0.5.1 update to see if it still doesn't work before removing it entirely. As for the redstone goes, this is fairly simple. All those deployers are locked, waiting for a redstone signal to come in. Once the redstone signal happens, first the deployers will swap the filters, then the funnels will remove the old filter, and the chutes will drop a new filter. The rest is just a way to move the filters around so it cycles them through all of them in order. I figured it needs exactly 8 ticks for the deployers to work once per cycle, and the rest have enough time to move items around. Not sure if there are better ways of doing this, but I actually love it, I think it's a cool concept. But yes, let me know if you have an idea why the filters simply won't work. Now for more interesting stuff, how all of this works. All those portable units and honey blocks are part of the same contraption controlled by this button over here. If we take a peek underneath, you can see how the button activates this redstone link. That link will do some shenanigans underneath, but it will ultimately activate those two minecarts, assembling two contraptions, the front panel and the vault. The idea is, we come here and place all the boxes we want to fill up against those honey blocks. That will make so all the boxes become part of the entity when we activate it. Then if we come down here, the next step is that the vault will also become an entity, connecting those two portable units, and dumping all the items from the vault. It's a bit hard to show, but all those items will get dumped into those funnels and belts. Then all those items will come this way and will try to fill up all the boxes we have attached, making use of more portable units attached to the second contraption. That's how we move all the items from the vault into the boxes in the quickest way possible. Then all the excess items that don't fit into the boxes will come down this funnel, into this other funnel, and move down into this bottom vault. That means all of those items in the vault above will either end up in the boxes or the bottom vault, leaving the top vault empty. So the next obvious step is to move all the items back into the top vault. This is where this machine comes into play. If we constantly move items upwards, then it will constantly try to fill up the boxes with the same items, not letting the bottommost items in the vault move too, because the topmost items would constantly be back into the system. Instead, we have this mechanical bearing. First, the two stickers will hook up both vaults into the bearing. Then, the mechanical bearing will flip 180 degrees, swapping one vault with the other, essentially leaving all the items back at the top. That's also why we have those random portable units down here. Once this flips, those will become the top units instead. That's also the reason why we have this redstone mess. First, we have this little section, which for now, all it's doing is locking the funnels. It's not like it's doing anything right now, but if we swap the vaults, for a split second, the portable units will activate, moving a few items forward. This redstone is here to prevent that. There is also a second functionality with this second part of the redstone that I will explain in a bit, which it's incredibly important, and honestly quite broken for any storage system. The next section is the main setup. Here is where the main button ends up, which will activate the first pulse repeater, just to make sure it's a quick pulse. That will activate all of those at the same time. The first two are pulse extenders, which will activate both contraptions for 6 seconds each. That's the time the boxes and the vaults will move items around. Next, we have a pulse repeater delaying a signal for 7 seconds. Right now there is a sticker attached to the vault, so it becomes an entity with the cart. It's hard to see, but it's right there. After 7 seconds, the sticker will release, and after 14 seconds the sticker will reattach. This is so the vault isn't part of the minecart after the items are moved. We have all of those that control the mechanical bearing. First, we have this pulse repeater delaying the signal for 10 seconds. If you remember, it came from here. It will fire after all of these already happened. Then it will come here, and with a delay of 1 second, it will activate the stickers on the bearing, attaching both vaults together. Then the signal bounces into this one, that with a delay of 3 seconds, will activate the bearing, which is set to 180 degrees, thus flipping the vaults. And finally, the last repeater after 5 seconds, will detach the stickers so the vaults aren't hooked anymore. It's a bit of a redstone mess, and it uses a bit too many links in my opinion, but it surely works perfectly fine. Well, I guess aside from those displays anyway. Now let me show this unloader in action because it's pretty cool. First, we put all the boxes on the honey blocks. It can fill up 10 boxes at the same time, but of course, we could use more honey blocks too. Now that we have all of those empty boxes, we click on this button, and you can see how immediately became an entity. It's so fast that we already missed the items moving through. But you can see how the bottom vault is already filled up with the excess items. If we wait a second now, it should flip the vaults, and the observers should show the items again. There we go, it's displaying them now. And you can see how the boxes got all filled with the stuff I had in the vault. If we had all the items, then it would have filled everything, but for now, we just tested with some of them. I love this system, it works great. Then we just go to the side, and pick them all up again. Sure, there are a few things here and there that can be improved, but I love it, and it's super fast too. Takes no time to place down the boxes, wait 15 seconds, and pick them back up. We going to have a lot of machines around, and a lot of different components being automated, so I thought the first step was making a loading system worthy of it. Now let's jump into how the funnels work, and why I had that redstone on the side of it, which is a vital component of any unloader, and probably other farms too. We are here in the test world, and I have prepared behind me a few things to explain this interaction more clearly than the narrow space of the unloader. This is a very normal setup. We have what could be a vault filled with items, transferring all its contents along this belt into the other funnel, which could be another vault, a machine, or whatever. You can see even though the belt is faster, the funnel has its own delay. It's not quick enough to fill up all the spots of the belt. If we wanted to unload an entire vault quicker, or we had a farm with really high rates, we would need to place the vault here with several funnels. Even for these two that are so close together, it's still down to the funnel's speed. You can see both are spitting items at the same rate, or the difference is nearly minimal. We could even move this funnel closer, and the rates still look pretty much the same at first glance. This here is the same setup I have on the unloader, with the second funnel underneath. And this right here is a simplified version of the redstone, but obviously without links. Here is what we should understand about funnels. The funnel that receives the items will work as fast as the belt itself. You can throw infinite items on it, and it will eat them all. Same for this one below. Sure, there is a limit, but they still eat items at an incredible rate. But we can force the first funnel to spit items if we update its state. This is why we have the awesome latches. You can see every time I flick the latch, the funnel spits items because we update it every time. But that's not all. This latch sends a signal forward, updating the funnel through the block, but it also bounces back into the latch. If a powered latch receives a signal from the side, it will turn off instantly. That's why the latch it's turning itself offline every time we flick it. Now, if instead of us flicking the latch once, we have something that powers it up constantly, this is when things start to get crazy. You can see how quickly it's spamming it now, and the funnel too, it's constantly getting updated over there. But if we take a look at the funnel now, we can see just how much more it's spamming items. And because we sending the signal to the side too, it's spamming the second funnel as well, with the bottom funnel being able to keep up with it. This could be a vault, or in our case, all those boxes we using on the unloader. You might notice how many items are going through, instead of the creative crate. That's because the hitbox is too close together, and some items manage to go through it. That's why we extend this funnel here. Now the hitbox is much further away, and of course closer to the first one. You can see how all items go through, but the second we put it back in, there is no leakage anymore. Not until the top side is filled anyway. This is how we manage to unload the vault so fast. Granted, this is probably overkill for most situations, but imagine we have a massive tunneler, and we need to unload 4 vaults filled with ores and stuff. This will do the job in a moment. We don't need many latches either. We can have one single latch here, and then use links to power up the rest, because those work just fine at this high rate. We could power this one over here, and you can see now how much is filling up the belt now. It's a whole lot faster. I hope the explanation made sense, and the humans learned a bit along the way. But now, let's get back to the manufacturing area. There is progress to be done, and stuff to be automated. Oh yes, I think I got carried away a little bit. And just like that, the first section of the automating area is complete. Doesn't it look amazing? I so love how it turned out. There is a lot to unpack inside, but first, let's check the outside really quick. I wanted to keep the factory vibes for the back side of the building. It's some sort of factory after all, so it only made sense. I also wanted to try to keep it in theme with the Western idea, but in the end, it just looks like a generic factory. I think it looks fantastic though, really cool. The front side I did kept it in theme with what I wanted. Because it's also a train station, I used those displays like the train schedules on some stations. I thought it was a brilliant idea. Then I made this sort of clock tower. Not entirely sure what I used as a reference, I just had this in my mind and it made sense. This side's not done yet, but there will be more stuff here eventually. This clock, I do like how it turned out. I used those supports on both sides to make it thicker, and also so they are at the same level, which I think was a great idea. Not entirely sure about the deep slate block, but I love the rest. Then we have the tower roof, which I think it's super cool. The shape turned out really well, and the inside of it with amethyst looks fantastic. Some changes I made to the unloader is this chassis. It used to be honey blocks because I don't like how the glue looks on the chassis, but then the honey blocks were worse looking than this anyway, so I just stick with this. The honey was also dragging some blocks with it, so it's more sensible now. As for the inside goes, there is a bit to unpack here. First thing, we have this cool looking hallway with a lot of lights and content observers. There will also be more to the left side eventually. But this side is great. I started with the obvious stuff, with shafts, cogwheels of both sizes, and so on. There are the casings here since those are used a lot, and we have a few more very used components for create. I basically grouped 2 that are crafted with casings, and the other 3 used kelp. A bit of disclaimer, the interior will look a bit messy for a reason. The entire design was made with 2 things in mind. First is that each section had to have only one input chest. The second is that every output chest should be connected to the main vault. Here is the chest for this section. Then we have another one here, and more over there. Each separate section does use its own. Then up here we have the flush system that connects all the chests to the main vault. You can see that all of them are locked right now. Once they get unlocked, all the items will move up here, and those belts will move them to the vault. It's a very simple setup to be fair. Let's say we wanted to move those belts into the vault. To use the unloading system instead of having to pick them up from the chests. All we would need to do is click this button over here, which will unlock the chute for a short time, and then the fancy lights to indicate the movement of items along the belts. That's why I used so many content observers, but it was worth it. Back here it's just what you would expect from Create. This section, for example, has planks and shafts along this line, and alternatively can use alloys to craft its own shafts too. Then it simply gets distributed and crafted into cogwheels, as well as the shafts stored forward. I also added a couple of levers with redstone links, depending on what I want to be crafting, to have a little bit of control. Next, we got the casings. This one is self-explanatory, ores and logs will come this way. First, the ores will get stored here, and then moved forward, and up onto that vault. Then the logs will continue onto the mechanical saw, processed into strip logs, and moved in place to become casings. And of course, the deployers make the casings. Then on the other side, we got a processing line to turn obsidian into sturdy sheets, for those train casings. They also go up this belt into the same vault, to be used by the deployers. The next section is to make gearboxes and chain drives. This one is surprisingly simple. Casings get sorted out here, which ends up on this depot. The cogwheels get sorted out here, which ends up on this second depot. And then the iron ingots get crafted into nuggets, which get fed directly into the basin. And you can see the other funnel that gets some of those casings too. Over to this side, we have the mechanical crafters. It uses the mechanical arm to distribute the materials, which then become gearboxes. It's directly connected to the funnel, so it's pretty simple. We also got this water tank to gather all the kelp we need. This gets cooked into dried kelp, and either it becomes belts, or it moves forward along this line. On the other side, we have this vault with a different input chest. This then drops all the items on those depots. And just like before, we use mechanical arms to move stuff around into the mechanical crafters. Of course, depending on what materials we threw, we will craft one thing or another, but it's pretty simple to use. I mean, yes, it's a bit tight on some spaces, but it all works perfectly fine, and it's all connected with the vault. I really like it. It's not the most efficient and amazing thing ever, but I really like it. Next time we going to be building over here too, still missing all those redstone components and whatnot. It's going to be a lot of automation too. And maybe by then, I manage to fix those displays too, which let me know if you find out why the filters don't work with the allow option. But this will be it for this episode. I hope the humans had fun watching it, and that you all learned a thing or two about automating stuff. Maybe some didn't know that interaction with the funnels. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you all next time.